Captain Hansel pressed his face against the cold glass of Luna Station's observation deck. Outside in the black space, enormous ships floated like sleeping giants. The Zephyrian Arc ships were massive, each one longer than 10 city blocks put together. Their metal hulls looked old and beaten up, covered in scratches and burn marks from their long journey through space. Sol had seen many alien ships before, but these were different. They looked tired, broken, like wounded animals seeking shelter. The captain counted 12 ships in total, all drifting slowly in Earth's outer space, waiting for permission to come closer, down in the diplomatic chamber. Bright lights suddenly filled the room as a figure began to appear. The holographic projector hummed quietly as Ambassador Veltar materialized before the human delegation. He was tall and thin, much taller than any human, with smooth gray skin that seemed to shimmer slightly under the lights. What made him truly alien were his 4 arms, to where humans would expect them, and more growing from his sides. Veltar spread all 4 arms wide and bent forward slightly. The humans had learned this was how Zephyrians showed respect and submission. It was strange to see such a gesture from beings who had once ruled over multiple star systems. "Honored humans," Veltar began, his voice sounding mechanical through the translation device that converted his alien speech into English. "We come not as conquerors, but as the humbled survivors of our own folly." Dr. Myung, a small woman with graying hair who studied alien life forms, sat up straighter in her chair. She had spent years learning about different species, but the Zephyrians had always been mysterious, keeping to themselves in their distant corner of the galaxy. "Our homeworld Zephy's prime lies dead," Veltar continued, his 4 arms now hanging at his sides in what looked like shame. Its atmosphere poisoned, its oceans turned to acid, its soil rendered barren by centuries of our careless exploitation. Words hung in the air like a heavy weight. Dr. Myung had seen reports of dead worlds before, planets stripped of all life by careless civilizations. But to hear it from the beings who had done it themselves was different. "How many survivors are we discussing, Ambassador?" Dr. Myung asked, leaning forward at the conference table. 1,000,000 souls across our fleet," Veltar replied immediately, as if he had expected this question. "We seek not charity, but a chance to prove ourselves worthy of the compassion humanity is known for throughout the galaxy." Admiral Wu Jin, a stern-faced man who commanded Earth's defense forces, watched the alien ambassador carefully. Something about this whole situation felt wrong to him. He had spent his entire career protecting Earth from threats, and his instincts were telling him to be very careful. "We have learned from our mistakes," Veltar continued, his voice taking on a pleading tone. "We ask only for settlement rights on your outer colonies where we might rebuild our civilization in harmony with nature." Ambassador's words sounded rehearsed to Admiral Wu Jin like a speech that had been practiced many times. But he kept his thoughts to himself for now. "Your empire once controlled 3 star systems," Admiral Wu Jin said slowly, his voice cutting through the chamber like a knife. "What happened to your military might?" For just a moment, something flickered across Veltar's alien features. It was so quick that most humans would have missed it, but Admiral Wu Jin caught it. Was it anger? Annoyance? The expression was gone. Before he could be sure, "Dissolved," Veltar said, his 4 arms drooping in what appeared to be defeat. "Our resources exhausted, our purpose abandoned. We are refugees now, nothing more. We throw ourselves upon human mercy." Dr. Myung felt her heart tug with sympathy. The idea of an entire civilization reduced to refugees was heartbreaking. She had always believed that everyone deserved a second chance, even those who had made terrible mistakes. Director Haijin, the leader of Earth's diplomatic council, had been quiet throughout the meeting. She was a careful woman who weighed every decision heavily. The fate of 1,000,000 beings rested in the choices she and the council would make. "We will consider your request, Ambassador." Director Haijin spoke carefully, choosing each word. With precision, humanity has always believed in second chances. As the holographic projection of Veltar began to fade, promising to await their decision, the human delegation sat in silence. Each of them was thinking about what they had just heard, but their thoughts were very different. Dr. Myung was thinking about mercy and redemption. Director Haijin was considering the political implications of housing 1,000,000 refugees. But Admiral Wujin was thinking about something else entirely. The way Veltar had looked when asked about his military forces, how his story seemed. Just a little too perfect. Up on the observation deck, Captain Hansal continued to watch the Ark ships floating in space. They looked peaceful enough, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story than what they had been told. In space, things were rarely as simple as they appeared, and the captain had learned long ago to trust his instincts when something felt wrong. Lieutenant Commander Jiwoo ran through the corridors of the orbital defense platform, his boots echoing loudly against the metal floors. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. The data pad in his hands felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Even though it was just a thin piece of technology no bigger than a book, he had been working late in the intelligence center when the computers finished decoding the damaged files they had recovered from space debris. What he found made his blood turn cold. Now he needed to get to Admiral Wujin immediately, before it was too late. The doors to Admiral Wujin's office slid open with a soft whoosh. The Admiral was sitting at his desk, reviewing daily reports. When Jiwoo burst in without even knocking, Wujin looked up, surprised to see his usually calm officer looking so panicked. "Sir, you need to see this immediately," Jiwoo said, his voice shaking as he activated the holographic display in the center of the office. Intelligence recovered partial data from a damaged Zephyrian communications array. The hologram flickered to life, filling the room with images that made both men freeze. Planet after planet appeared in the display, but these were not the beautiful worlds that should exist in space. These were dead rocks, stripped of all life, their surfaces scarred with massive mining operations that looked like open wounds. Am I looking at?" Admiral Wujin asked, though he was already beginning to understand. "Zephyrian military records," Jiwoo replied, his fingers working quickly across the control panel. "This is what they did before they came to us begging for help." The images changed, showing alien creatures being forced to work in terrible conditions. Some looked like they were dying from exhaustion and starvation. Others were being loaded onto transport ships like cargo rather than living beings. The Zephyrians in the images wore military uniforms and carried weapons, watching over their prisoners with cold indifference. Dr. Myung arrived at that moment, having been called to the emergency briefing. She stepped into the office, just as the hologram showed a beautiful blue-green planet being systematically destroyed. Massive machines tore into the surface, while the planet's native creatures fled in terror. "Oh my God!" Dr. Myung gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. As someone who had dedicated her life to studying and protecting alien life, the images were like watching a nightmare come to life. "The ecological collapse wasn't accidental," Jiwoo continued, his voice getting stronger as he explained what he had discovered. They knew exactly what they were doing. They strip-mined their homeworld to build the largest military fleet in their sector. The hologram now showed Zephy's prime in its final days. The once beautiful world was a wasteland of poisoned air and dead oceans. But in orbit around it was the largest collection of warships any of them had ever seen. Hundreds of massive vessels, all built from the bones of the planet below.
Wow.
"This is what they did to 47 other worlds," Jiwoo said quietly. Admiral Wujin felt his jaw muscles tighten as anger began to build inside him. He had suspected something was wrong about the Zephyrian story, but this was far worse than he had imagined. These were not reformed refugees seeking redemption. They were war criminals of the worst kind. "What else?" he asked, though he was almost afraid to hear the answer. Jiwoo pulled up another file, this one showing recent communications intercepts. "Intercepted communications from 3 days ago," he said, activating the translation software. The voice that filled the room was unmistakably Veltar's, though he sounded very different from the humble, pleading ambassador they had met. Tone was confident, almost arrogant, as he spoke to other Zephyrian commanders. "The human's weakness for mercy is our greatest advantage," Veltar's translated voice said clearly. "Once we establish colonies in their territory, we rebuild our strength and strike when they least expect it. These soft-hearted fools will house the architects of their own destruction." Dr. Myung sank into a chair, her face pale with shock and betrayal. She had argued for helping the Zephyrians, believing in their story of redemption and change. Now she felt sick, knowing how completely she had been deceived. "They were never refugees," she whispered. "They were planning to use our compassion against us from the very beginning." Admiral Wuzhen stood up from his desk, his mind already working on what needed to be done. The Zephyrians had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed that human kindness meant human weakness. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Many people know about this?" he asked Jiwoo. "Just the three of us in the intelligence team that decoded the files," Jiwoo replied. "Whoa, keep it that way for now," Admiral Wuzhen ordered. "But get me Director Haijin immediately, and prepare a full analysis of those ARC ships. If they think our mercy makes us easy targets, they're about to discover what happens when humans stop being merciful." The holographic display continued. To show the evidence of Zephyrian crimes, each image a reminder of the 47 worlds that had died to fuel their war machine. But now Earth knew the truth, and the Zephyrians were about to learn that deceiving humanity was the biggest mistake they had ever made. Ambassador. Veltar's holographic form shimmered into existence in the diplomatic chamber, his forearms spread, wide in the traditional gesture of respectful greeting. He had been waiting for this moment for 3 weeks, confident that the soft-hearted humans would grant his people sanctuary on their outer worlds. After all, humans were famous throughout the galaxy for their mercy and willingness to help those in need, but as his image solidified, Veltar immediately sensed something was wrong. The room felt different, colder, more hostile. The humans sitting around the table were not the same friendly faces he had met before. Director Haijin sat at the center of the table, but her expression was nothing like the warm, considerate leader he had spoken with weeks ago. Her face was hard as stone, her eyes cold as winter stars. Next to her sat Admiral Wujin, the military commander who had always seemed suspicious. But now, his suspicion had turned into something much more dangerous. But it was the third figure that made Veltar's blood run cold. A new human sat at the table, a tall, stern-faced man in a different uniform. This man had the look of someone who had spent his life dealing with the worst criminals in the galaxy. Behind the human delegation, holographic displays flickered to life, showing images that made Veltar's forearms tremble. The screens showed his people's military records, planets being destroyed, alien species being enslaved, entire civilizations being wiped out to fuel the Zephyrian war machine. "Ambassador," Director Haijin began, her voice steady and cold as ice, "we've reviewed additional information about your people's history." Veltar felt panic rising in his chest as he recognized the footage being displayed. These were classified military records that should have been destroyed when their homeworld died. How had the humans gotten access to them? Those records are taken out of context," Veltar stammered, his diplomatic training kicking in even as his mind raced to find a way out of this trap. Ancient history from a more primitive time. The new human at the table, General Teho, according to his uniform markings, leaned forward with a cold smile that contained no warmth whatsoever. 3 years ago is hardly ancient history," he said, in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "Nor your recent communications about using human weakness against us." Veltar felt his carefully constructed diplomatic mask beginning to crack. These humans had been listening to private Zephyrian communications. They knew about the plan to use human colonies as staging areas for rebuilding their military strength. "You've been spying on sovereign communications," Veltar said, his voice rising with indignation. "How dare you? How dare we?" Wujin interrupted, leaning forward across the table. His eyes burned with barely controlled anger. "You came here planning to exploit our compassion while plotting our destruction. But here's what you misunderstood about humanity, Ambassador. Our compassion doesn't make us weak, it makes us precise." The words hit Veltar like physical blows. These humans were not the easy targets he had expected. They discovered his people's true nature and were now showing a side of themselves that the galaxy rarely saw. Director Haijin activated another display, showing a document with official Earth government seals. "The accountability protocol," she announced. "Every Zephyrion in your fleet has a choice." Veltar stared at the document, not understanding what he was seeing. "What is this?" "Your options," General Teho explained with the patience of someone explaining simple concepts to a child. Submit to neural documentation of your crimes and accept assignment to restoration work on the worlds you destroyed, or face exile into deep space with minimal supplies. The ambassador's mouth fell open in shock. You cannot be serious. We are not criminals seeking redemption. We are a proud species. You are war criminals. General Tejo cut him off, his voice sharp as a blade. But unlike you, we believe in the possibility of redemption through action. 20 years of supervised restoration work for every world you destroyed. You'll rebuild the ecosystems, help the surviving species, and prove through decades of constructive labor that you've truly changed. Veltar's forearms waved frantically as he tried to process what he was hearing. The humans were offering his people a chance to survive, but only if they spent the rest of their lives undoing the damage they had caused. And if we refuse, he asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Admiral Wujin's smile was as cold as the vacuum of space. Then you'll drift in the void with exactly the same mercy you showed your victims. Choose wisely, Ambassador. Wanted to see human compassion? This is what it looks like when tempered with justice. The holographic displays behind the humans continued to show images of destroyed worlds and enslaved species. Each picture was a reminder of the 47 civilizations that had died to fuel Zephyrian ambitions. Veltar realized with growing horror that the humans had turned his own plan against him. He had come expecting to exploit their mercy, but instead, they were offering him something far more terrifying, the chance to earn redemption through decades of hard work and sacrifice. For the first time in his life, the proud Zephyrian ambassador understood what it meant to face true justice. Captain Hansel stared at his communications screen in disbelief. The alien face looking back at him had 4 eyes and sharp teeth that gleamed when it spoke. "Human, Captain," the Keth commander said with a nasty smile. "We watched your people help those Zephyrian criminals. You gave food to murderers. You are weak and soft. Now we will take your planets." Hansel looked at his friend Lieutenant Yansu, who was working at the weapons control panel. "Did he just call us weak because we helped refugees?" "Yes, sir," Yansu said, shaking his head. "He thinks being kind means we cannot fight." The Keth ships moved closer to the human trade routes. There were 12 big warships and many smaller ones. They had come from far away to attack human supply ships, carrying food and medicine to different planets. Hansel pressed a button on his chair. "This is Captain Hansel, to Admiral Wujin. We have hostile aliens threatening our shipping lanes. They say they want to attack us because we showed mercy to the Zephyrians." Admiral Wujin's voice came through the speakers quickly. "Captain, help is coming. Hold your position. These aliens are about to learn something important about humans." Within an hour, 20 human warships appeared near Hansel's patrol vessel. Admiral Wujin's ship was the biggest, with powerful weapons and thick armor. But the human ships looked different from typical war vessels. They had special systems designed to disable enemy ships without destroying them completely. The Keth commander sent another message. "Humans, you bring more ships, but we are not afraid. Your soft hearts make you terrible warriors. We will crush you and take your worlds." Admiral Wujin responded calmly. "Keth fleet, this is your only warning. Leave this system now or face the consequences. We offered mercy to the Zephyrians because they asked for help. You came here to hurt innocent people. There is a big difference. The Keth ships attacked first. Red laser beams cut through space toward the human vessels. But the human ships were ready. They moved in perfect formation, their shields absorbing the enemy fire while their own weapons struck back with deadly accuracy. The battle was not what the Keth expected. Human ships did not just shoot wildly. Each weapon blast was carefully aimed. When a Keth warship lost its engines, human ships stopped shooting at it. When Keth crew members escaped in small pods, human rescue ships picked them up safely. "Captain?" Hansel watched from his bridge as the human fleet systematically disabled each enemy vessel. "They are not just winning," he told Yansu, "are showing the galaxy that we can be both merciful and strong." One by one, the Keth ships lost power and drifted helplessly in space. The aliens inside were alive, but could not fight anymore. After 4 hours, the last Keth ship turned off its weapons, and sent a surrender message. Admiral Wu Jin opened a communication channel that could be heard across the entire star system. This is humanity's message to all who listen. We helped the Zephyrians because they came to us asking for mercy after their terrible crimes. Wanted to change and make things right. The Keth came here to hurt innocent people and steal our planets. We treat everyone based on their choices and actions. The Admiral paused, then continued. We will always help those who truly seek redemption. But we will always defend the innocent from those who choose violence. Consequences match choices. This is our way. News of the battle traveled fast through the galaxy's communication networks. On planets hundreds of light years away, alien leaders watched recordings of the fight. They saw how humans had defeated a powerful enemy fleet while keeping most of the enemy soldiers alive. Some aggressive alien species that had been planning attacks on human colonies suddenly changed their minds. They realized that human kindness did not mean human weakness. Other civilizations that had been hurt by bullies and conquerors sent messages to Earth asking for help. Captain Masal received reports from across known space. Sir, Yansu said, reading from his screen, the Brutari Empire just canceled their invasion of the Moran system. The Stellar Confederacy is asking if we can help them deal with space pirates. And sir, the Zephyrian Council sent a message, thanking us for showing the galaxy what justice looks like. Hansel smiled as he looked out at the disabled Keth ships floating peacefully in space. Human medical ships were already helping injured Keth soldiers. I think the galaxy is starting to understand us better. Admiral Wu Jin's voice came through the speakers one more time. All ships, prepare the Keth prisoners for transport to the rehabilitation facility on Kepler Station. They will be treated fairly and given the chance to learn a better way. Maybe some of them will choose differently next time. The human fleet had won more than just a battle. They had shown the entire galaxy that true strength comes from knowing when to fight and when to forgive. Ambassador Veltar stood in the large control room, looking at the computer screens. The numbers showed good news. Another day of cleaning. The poisoned air on planet Kepler 4 for DC was complete. His 4 arms moved quickly over the buttons and switches. This work used to feel like punishment, but now it felt important. Captain Hansal appeared in a flash of light on the transport platform. He had been promoted from ship captain to diplomatic helper. The 3-month report shows amazing progress. Veltar, we have completely fixed the air on 2 dead planets. 3 more planets are getting better and can support life again. Veltar was once an important Zephyrian leader. Now he supervised other Zephyrians who were working to fix the damage they had caused. He nodded slowly. When Director Hyjin first gave us this choice 5 years ago, I thought it was a cruel trick. Make us rebuild what we destroyed. Make us remember our terrible crimes every single day. What do you think now? Hansel asked. Now I understand what humans mean by redemption, Veltar said. He pointed toward the big window where they could see animals eating grass in the fields they had restored. We did not just destroy worlds. We destroyed the chance for life itself to exist. Every day I work here, every successful repair gives that chance back to the universe. Hansal created a holographic display that showed maps of the galaxy and where different alien governments controlled space. The hegemony of Keth officially ended last month. Their former leaders want to join the restoration program. Did someone force them to ask? No, they asked voluntarily. It seems your example has been inspiring to other species. Through the facility's communication system, Dr. Myung's voice reached them from Earth. Veltar, we are receiving applications from 17 different alien species wanting to join restoration efforts. Some are former attackers seeking redemption. Others are simply inspired by the program's success. Veltar spread his forearms wide in the traditional Zephyrian way of showing deep gratitude. 5 years ago, we hoped human compassion would make you easy to defeat. Instead, you taught us that true compassion requires both mercy and accountability. You did not destroy us when you had the power to do so. You gave us the chance to become something better than we were. Captain Hansal smiled. That is what humans do, Veltar. We believe anyone can choose to be better, but we also believe that choice must be proven through actions. not just words. Outside the window, small creatures that looked like rabbits hopped through the restored grassland. 5 years ago, this planet had been completely dead. The Zephyrians had poisoned its air and water during their war against the local population. Now flowers bloomed and streams ran clear. How many Zephyrians are working in the program now? Hansel asked. Almost all of us, Veltar replied. At first, only a few chose restoration over prison. But when they saw how meaningful the work was, others asked to join. Now we have Zephyrians working on 47 different planets. Hansel looked at his tablet. The reports show that former Zephyrian military officers are now teaching other species how to restore damaged ecosystems. Your people have become experts at bringing life back to dead worlds. We learn by doing, Veltar said quietly. Every tree we plant, every stream we clean, every animal habitat we rebuild teaches us more about how precious life is. We spent centuries destroying it. Now we understand why it must be protected. A message came through the communication system. This is Commander Thex of the former Keth military. We formally request admission to the restoration program. We wish to prove our commitment to change through action. Veltar looked at Hansel. 5 years ago, the Keth called humans weak for showing us mercy. Now, they want to follow our path. The galaxy is changing, Hansel agreed. Word is spreading that the human way works. Show mercy to those who truly want to change, but make them prove their commitment through hard work and real results. Dr. Myung's voice came through the speakers again. Veltar. The Galactic Council has officially adopted the Accountability Protocol as the standard for dealing with war crimes and aggressive expansion. 12 different species have requested human advisors to help them set up their own restoration programs. Veltar walked to the window and looked out at the sunset over the restored landscape. Small flying creatures that looked like butterflies danced in the evening light. When we first came to human space, we thought we were the most advanced species in the galaxy. We had powerful weapons and conquered many worlds. What do you think now? Hansel asked. Now I know that humans were always more advanced than us, Veltar replied. Not because of your technology, but because of your wisdom. You understood something we did not. The strongest species is not the one that can destroy the most. It is the one that can create the most. The one that can turn enemies into friends. The one that can bring life back from death. Hansel put his hand on Veltar's shoulder. And now you understand it too. That is what redemption means.